We begin the readout tonight with Kevin McCarthy's Republican boycott of the Select Committee investigating January 6th. It's clear his decision is already backfiring on his party, but no amount of bluster can cover up McCarthy's ineptitude nor his guilty conscience. As Trump's most obedient servant, he's trying to whitewash January 6th and cover up Trump's role in the violence because, according to Trump, the crowd he summoned to Washington that day was, quote, loving. And yes, he really said that, loving. Not only that, Trump actually blamed the Capitol Police for, quote, letting them in.
There was a loving crowd, too, by the way. There was a lot of love. I've heard that from everybody. Many, many people have told me that was a loving crowd. In all fairness, the Capitol Police were ushering people in. The Capitol Police were very friendly. You know, they were hugging and kissing. You don't see that.
But disturbing video evidence released by the government at the request of news outlets clearly shows otherwise. Capitol Police engaged in literal hand-to-hand combat with the insurrectionists who showed no regard for the, quote, blue lives they claimed to support. This was not the loving crowd that Trump describes. Rather, it was a literal MAGA army. And it was Trump who gave them their marching orders. All of them were duped by the mass delusion that is the big lie. By boycotting the investigation, McCarthy and his cohorts are now turning their backs on the very police who bravely defended their lives. And they're snubbing the 4 officers who will be delivering testimony at the committee's first hearing next week. And in doing so, the GOP remains complicit in Trump's lies, an alternate universe where, quote, hate is love, violence is peace, and the pro-Trump attackers are patriots, as the Associated Press put it. In fact, a majority of Trump voters say that January 6th was, quote, patriotic. And House Republicans have no intention of disabusing them of that notion, even when our democracy hangs in the balance. Listen to Speaker Pelosi on that point.
Some of you were here that day as well, so you can attest to the fact that it was not all love, hugs, and kisses. This is deadly serious. This is about our Constitution. It's about our country. It's about assault on the Capitol that is being mischaracterized for some reason at the expense of finding the truth for the American people.
This committee represents the last best chance to get to the bottom of what happened on January 6th. And when it comes to the makeup of that committee, Democratic Speaker Nancy Pelosi has actually been a better advocate for Republicans than their own leader. She's already appointed Congresswoman Liz Cheney and is now weighing additional Republicans like Adam Kinzinger, among others. In other words, it's going to be a bipartisan committee, whether Kevin McCarthy likes it or not. Joining me now are Congresswoman Madeleine Dean of Pennsylvania. She was an impeachment manager earlier this year and serves on the Judiciary Committee. And David Jolly, former Republican congressman from Florida, who is no longer affiliated with the party. Thank you both very much for coming to the readout. Congresswoman Dean, let me play for you what Jim Jordan had to say, who he blames for the insurrection. And I'll talk to you on the other side.
I don't think they're going to address the fundamental question. The fundamental question of why wasn't there a proper security presence at the Capitol that day? They're not going to address that. And only one person can answer that question. Only one. Speaker of the United States House of Representatives.
Congresswoman Dean, I'm not going to have you address Congressman Jordan unless you want to, but you were there that day. One of the many iconic pictures that come out of January 6th was a photo of you in a gas mask in the House gallery being evacuated. I would just love your reaction to what House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy is saying about that day and what he's doing or not doing about that day.
Well, Jonathan, it's a pleasure to be with you and also, of course, to be with David Jolly. Jonathan, I don't know if you remember, but the first time I met you was in Selma with John Lewis.
Yes,
as we crossed the Pettus Bridge. I think about him and that moment a lot. What are we to make of the lunacy of Donald Trump, who called it love and hugs and kisses? We should call it delusional, as you just did. But what are we to make of elected leaders like Jim Jordan, Mr. McCarthy, who have tethered themselves so desperately to this lunatic, delusional set of lies that it's extraordinarily dangerous for the country? I'm extremely proud of the Speaker. She made a difficult, thoughtful decision in disqualifying Mr. Jordan, Mr. Banks from the committee. But really, in effect, they had completely disqualified themselves in their thoughts and in their actions. Imagine the deflection that Mr. Jordan attempts there. It's torturous. It's not going to convince anybody that somehow this is an investigation of Speaker Pelosi. What happened on January the 6th, and thank you for recognizing I was there, it's still incomprehensible to me that happened, that Americans incited by an American president attacked Americans using our flag, using a Trump flag, feeding other members. They would have beaten any one of us. They would have killed any one of us. They would not have distinguished if I was a Republican or a Democrat. They came to hang, to assassinate, to kill, to do violence. So the Speaker has done the right thing. What we must get at now, 6 months after this insurrection, are the facts and the truth. Let them take us where they may. It may tell us that some people were involved. It may tell us that some people were not involved at all. But we need to know, what did people know in advance? What did the president, for example, know in advance? What did he know on the day? And importantly, what was he doing thereafter? Why did he not send help? It's complicity in that inaction.
And, you know, David Jolly, I'm going to latch on to a word that Congresswoman Dean just said, tethered. The fact that House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy is tethered to Donald Trump. Jim Jordan is tethered to Donald Trump. And both of them are tethered to the big lie that led to folks coming to Washington. Can you please explain, because you served with those folks when you were in Congress. Why are they tethered to someone who has no reverence whatsoever for the Constitution of the United States?
Yeah, Jonathan, I've come a long ways from providing deference to my former colleagues. What I would say is this: Donald Trump himself is delusional, he's dishonest, and he's a fraud. Kevin McCarthy, Jim Jordan, they're just political scoundrels. Right? They know the truth. They're engaging in the lie for their own political viability, for their own political interest. And they're also doing it in a very manipulative way. Look, what you heard from Jim Jordan in that clip is a classic debate technique. We want to know why the Capitol security wasn't on a stronger footing. That's a legitimate question. And actually, this committee, as the facts go where they may, they should get an answer to that. But that is a deflection from what actually caused the insurrection, what actually caused the near violent overthrow of the peaceful transition of power here on U.S. soil. And so Jim Jordan, Kevin McCarthy, they're engaging in the big lie because they have to protect themselves politically from it. At the end of the day, what you are seeing by McCarthy, Jordan, and others is an effort to get past the events of January 6th, right? These were Republicans that stormed the Capitol. They were not Democrats. There is no value for Republicans politically in discussing the events of January 6th, and where both parties and all politicians should be asking the same exact questions to get to the same exact facts. That's not the agenda of Republicans.